A whopping 63% of prison inmates cannot read. This statistic scares me. It is a perfect example of why literacy is so important in the classroom setting. Student learning is slowed drastically if a balanced literacy program is not implemented in the classroom. All literacy should be taught using the five-stage reading process of pre-reading, reading, responding, exploring, and applying. Within the reading processes, the teacher should focus on the 5 pillars of reading, which are phonemic awareness and phonics for kindergarten through 2nd grade, vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency. A balanced literacy approach to reading instruction includes a tad bit of basal reading, some literature circles, a literature focus unit, some reading and/or writing workshops, and some daily 5. Students will be best oriented if learning is student-centered and the literacy programs are authentic. It is for these reasons that I would spend a majority of my 90-minute literacy block working with literature focus units, literature circles, reading and/or writing workshops, and daily 5. These applications support the constructivism, sociolinguistic, and information processing theories. Students construct their own knowledge in literature focus units. Literature circles and reading and writing workshops emphasize the importance of language and social interaction on learning. To demonstrate my beliefs of literacy teaching and learning, my classroom environment will be rich with authentic environmental text, and I will have a plethora of books for my students to choose from in my classroom library. Reading is a skill that students will take with them into their adult life. People will read for pleasure, and because of this truth, my classroom will have a reading corner. In my reading corner, I would like to have a couch, a chair, beanbags, pillows, lamps, and, of course, a bookshelf. Classroom library books will be arranged on the bookshelf by genre and reading level. Students will always be required to have a pleasure book to read with them at all times. Posters will be placed throughout the classroom to help guide the reader in comprehension with cognitive and metacognitive strategies like brainstorming, for example. A word wall will definitely be present in my classroom to help with vocabulary. A morning message will be made available for students to read upon entering the classroom. Literacy instruction will be meaningful, enjoyable, and enthusiastic. I will always remember to deliver my lessons with these things in mind so my students will love learning and love my literacy instruction. I will be an effective teacher who guides students to reach achievement at a mastery level. There will be days that I will come to school in a costume to support the students' learning of a book. Having a classroom that is student-centered will allow for my students to express their opinions. Students will know what is expected of them from knowing my classroom rules and positive and negative consequences. Assessment drives and guides my instruction. To assess my students' learning with literacy, I will track my students' progress with diagnostic tests. My goal is to have every student's reading level significantly higher than when they first stepped foot into my classroom. I will monitor students' progress through conferences during their reading workshop time. A portfolio will be kept for each student in my classroom. Reflections, along with students' work, will be included inside the portfolio. Scoring guides will help me evaluate students' learning. When assessing my students, I will look for growth in phonemic awareness and phonics if I am working with primary grade levels, vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency. Literacy instruction will be employed in several different ways in my classroom. Literature circles, literature focus units, reading and/or writing workshop, and daily 5 will be several of the approaches I will use for reading instruction. These approaches involve the student and hold the student accountable for his or her own learning. My students will practice choral reading for fluency, chant and claps for vocabulary, and closed procedures for comprehension. Collaborative books will be created to enhance student interest in reading. Grand conversations and learning logs support my information processing belief. Making words, sketch to stretch, open mind portraits, word ladders, and word sorts all rely on students constructing their own knowledge. Hot seats, mini lessons, quick writing, reading logs, and sustained silent reading times are more examples of practices that I will incorporate in my room for literacy. A literacy program can only be successful if the roles of the teacher and student are clear and understood. The teacher helps facilitate learning. Teacher and student input will be almost equal on terms. The student is responsible for following the rules and procedures posted in the classroom. Following directions are very important, especially for having so many different literacy activities planned. I will be available to answer any questions the students may have. It is my responsibility to make sure the students are making progress in their reading ability. Students must put forth every effort to ensure their learning capabilities. In doing so, students will be able to read and succeed.